professional screamer. This up so bad. I gotta keep my voice quiet though. It's getting late. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. Because I wasted so much time, I'm gonna scrap writing the rest of most of it because this book is hard. I'm just gonna read another book instead, okay? I hope you're okay with that. I did have a couple of read this book. It's called The Sleep Story. Okay. I am so sorry about the first portion of the stream. Quiet except for that sound. I'm so sorry about that. Read this story. I am I am so dumb. I literally was doing this for like 40 minutes. You guys were just like ignore. I didn't think to check the settings for the microphone and make sure it's working. Okay, so we're going to read this bedtime story. Oh. I can't get over the fact that I was doing this for. So, well, at least it got me one. Alright, how can I go to bed? Said Penny, Mossy Dog, till I say goodnight to baby Ray. Gives me a part of his bread and milk, pats me with his little soft hand. It's bedtime now for dogs and babies. I wonder if he's asleep. He trotted along in the silky white nightgown till he found baby Ray on the porch with Mama's arms, and still was telling him in some little story, the same little story that I'm telling you. The doggie that was given to him, keep, went to see if baby Ray was asleep, sleep. How can we go to bed? Said Snowdrop and Thistledown, the youngest children of the tabby cat, till we have once more looked at baby Ray. Let us play with his locks and balls, and laugh while we climb on the table. It's bedtime now for kitties and dogs and babies. Perhaps we should all find him asleep. And this is what the kitties heard. It's very hard to hear you, my good sir, and if ASMR standpoint sounds like we're going crazy. Okay, if it's really hard to hear me, give me 1 second here. I'm going to boost the output just a little bit. I hope you guys can still hear me. I don't want to go too loud. I don't want to go too loud. Is this better? Like, is this not too aggressive up in your ears? I went on the lower side of the spectrum because I didn't want it to. It might be the gain, actually. Hang on. Okay, bear with me here. If I do this, is that better? Is that gonna work? Hang on. I'm sorry. This is definitely a scuffed scream. Scream. It's a stream. That's better. The tone you are speaking is better. Whispering is almost impossible to hear you. Okay, so I should probably just go to soft talking instead of whispering, because I think the whispering is not going to work for that. Okay. Should we swap? Okay, I did have another book here. This is a really short one, so it'd only take a few minutes to read. This will. Oh, what did I do? Oh no, Windows. Please, Windows. No. Remind me later. My whole computer just wanted to freak out and tell me about an update. So how I'm talking right now is perfect ASMR. Okay. I'm not too loud. I'm not too quiet. As long as I hit that middle spot, that's what I want. Okay, we're going to read a short story called The Lonely Giant. don't actually know this story, so I'm going to figure out how this works. Once upon a time, in a cozy little house, lived a happy family. Every morning they would wake up and have delicious breakfast of cereal and orange juice. But one day, they were shocked to find that the cereal and the orange juice was gone, and the toys had all been played with. Who could have done this? The father asked, puzzled. I don't know, the mother replied, but we need to figure it out before it happens again. The son, who was very clever, had an idea. I'll stay up all night and catch the culprit in the act, he said. That night, the son hid under the sofa, waiting for the mysterious thief to appear. He waited and waited. Nothing happened. Just when he was about to give up, he heard a loud noise. Suddenly, a large giant appeared in the room. The giant ate all the cereal and drank up all the orange juice and played with all of the toys. The boy was shocked, but he had stayed hidden under the sofa, watching the giant. After a while, the giant finished his feast and sat down with a content sigh. The boy could not believe his eyes. The giant was huge, but he was also lonely and sad. The boy felt sorry for him. Hello, the boy said, coming out from under the sofa. Why are you doing this? The giant was startled and tried to scare the boy, but the boy was not afraid. Instead, he smiled and offered the giant a hug. I'm sorry, the giant said. I have no family, and I'm looking for some comfort. The boy felt even more sorry for the giant, and he had an idea. Why don't you come live with us? He asked. The giant's eyes lit up, and he gratefully accepted the boy's offer. The boy's parents were surprised, but they were kind-hearted and agreed to let the giant stay with them. At first, it was a funny sight to see the giant in their small house. He was so big, and he had to bend down to fit through the doorways. But the family didn't mind, and they all lived happily ever after. The giant was no longer lonely, and he had a new family to love and care for. And the family was grateful to have such a gentle giant to protect them. Hello, Brody. I'm trying to find the right way to do this. I'm very nervous, guys. I'm trying my best. Would you like me to go back to Alice in Wonderland? That's what we started on when um I forgot to unmute the mic. I can go back to reading Alice because that probably will fill enough time. It's 12 chapters, so it's a bit of a stretch, but I will gladly read this for you because this will probably take up the majority of the time for the stream anyways. Yeah, I'm gonna try and keep my consistent voice if I can. Okay. If the face tracking goes crazy, I apologize. There's really not much I can do about it. You have an amazing voice for reading. Thank you very much. Okay. I try and do this without the accent, but it kept creeping in. I can't really control it. If it does, I apologize in advance. Chapter 1. Down the Rabbit Hole. Alice had sat at the bank over by her sister's till she was tired. Once or twice she had looked over the books her sister had held, but there were no pictures in it. And what is the use of a book with no pictures, Alice thought. She asked herself as well as she could on the hot day, but it made her feel quite dull. It would be worth a while to get up and pick some daisies to make a chain. Just then, a white rabbit with pink eyes ran close by her. To Alice, it was not such a strange thing, nor did Alice think much of it when the rabbit said, oh dear, I shall be late." And the rabbit took a watch out of its pocket, took a look at it, and ran on. Alice got on her feet because it was the first time she had seen a rabbit with a watch. She jumped up and ran to get a look at it. It was just that time to see it pop down a large rabbit hole near the hedge. Sip of water real quick. Okay. As fast as she could go, Alice went down the hole after it. She did not once stop to think of how she would get out. The hole went straight on for some ways, then turned down with a sharp bend, so sharp that Alice had no time to think. Stopped, found herself falling, what seemed to be a very deep well. She must not have moved fast, or the well must have been quite deep, for it took her a long time to go down. She had much time to look around at strange things past. She first tried to look down and make out what was there, but it was too dark to see. Then she looked down the sides of the well. She saw they were piled with bookshelves. Here and there she saw maps hung on pegs. She took down a jar from one of these shelves as she passed on the... It had the word jam, but there was no jam in it. So she put it back on one of the shelves as she passed. Well, thought Alice, after such a fall as this, I wouldn't mind a fall down the stairs at all. How brave they'll all think me back home. Why, I wouldn't say it's such a thing as to fall off the roof of a house. Down, down, down. Would the fall never stop or come to an end? I should like to think how far down I have gone. It'd be strange if I fell right through the earth and came out where folks walk with their feet up and their heads down. So the accent is slipping back in. I'm trying not to. Insensitive. Down, down, down. Dinah will miss me tonight, Alice went on. Dinah was the cat. I'd hoped they'd think to give her milk at dinner time. Dinah, my dear, I wish you were down here with me. There are no mice in the air, but you might catch a bat. And that is much like a mouse, you know. Do cats eat bats? And here Alice must have gone to sleep, for she dreamed that she had walked hand in hand with Dinah. And just as she asked her, "Now, Dinah, tell me the truth. Do you eat bats?" All at once, thump, thump, down she came on a heap of sticks and dry leaves. The long fall was over. Alice was not a bit hurt and jumped to her feet. She looked up, but all was dark there. At the end of a long hall in front of her was the white rabbit. She was still in sight. There was no time to be lost, so off Alice went like the wind. Just as it was time to hear it say, "Oh, my ears, how late it is," and it was out of sight. She found she was in a long hall with a low roof from which hung a row of lighted lamps. There were doors on all sides, but Alice had been all round and tried each one of them, found that they were all locked. And she walked back and forth and tried to think of how she was to get out. At least she came to a stand made of all glass, and it was on this that she found a tiny key made of gold. Alice's first thought was this might be the key to one of the doors in the hall. When she had tried the key on each of the locks, she'd found that the locks were too large for the key. It was far too small. It did not fit any one of them. But when she went around the hall once more, she came to a low curtain that she had not seen at first. When she drew back, she found a small door, which was not much more than a foot high. Tried the key on the lock, and great joy, it fitted. Alice found that the door led to a hall size of a rabbit hole. She knelt down and looked through into a garden with beautiful flowers. How she longed to get out of that dark hall near those bright blooms. She could not as much as get her head through the door. If my head won't go through, thought Alice, it would be of no use to the rest of me. It'd still be too large to go through. Oh, how I wish I was small. There seemed to be no use but to wait for the door. She went back to the stand and hoped that she might find a key that might fit one of the larger doors, or maybe a book of rules that would teach her to grow small, but this time she found a small bottle, which I'm sure was not there just now, said Alice. And tied round the neck of the bottle was a tag with the words, "Drink me," printed on it. It was all right to say "drink me," but Alice was too wise to do that in haste. "No, I'll look first," she said. "See if it's marked poison or not." She had thought if you drink much from a bottle marked poison, it is sure to make you sick. This had no such mark on it, so she dared to taste it. And as she found it nice, in fact it had the taste of pie and ice cream, roast fowl and hot toast, she quickly drank it all up. "How strange I feel," said Alice. "I'm sure I'm not as large as I was." And so it was. It was about 30 centimeters high, and her face lit up with the thought that she was now the right size to go through the small door and get to that lovely garden. Poor Alice, when she reached the door, she had found that she had left the key on the stand. When she went back for it, she found that she could by no means reach it. She could see it through the glass, and she tried her best to climb up one of the legs of the stand, but it was too sleek. And when she was quite tired out, she had sat down and had a good cry. "Come now, there's no news crying like that," Alice said to herself in as stern as she could. "Now, stop it right now." Soon her eyes fell onto a small glass box that laid on the floor. She looked in it, and she found a tiny cake, on which the words "Eat me" were marked in grapes. "Well, I'll eat it," said Alice. "If it makes me grow tall, I can reach the key. If it makes me shrink, well, I can creep under the door. I guess I'll get some way out." So she set to work and soon ate all of the cake. Okay, another sip of water. This is a first time for me, so I am riddled with nerves. I apologize if it's leaking through. Okay, chapter 2. Pool of Tears. "How strange, oh my," said Alice. "I'm so tall. And all at once, too. Goodbye, feet." And when she looked down at her feet, they seemed so far away. She thought they would soon be out of sight. "Oh, my poor feet. Who would put on your shoes for you now? I'm sure I can't do it, for I am far too tall to take care of you. But even if I can't take care of you, I have to be nice to them," thought Alice. They won't walk the way I want to go. Let me see, I'll give them a new pair of shoes each year at Christmas." She stopped to think how she would send them. They must go by mail, she thought. How funny it all must seem to send shoes to one's own feet. How odd the address would look. Alice's right foot on the rug near the fire. With love, Alice. Oh dear, there's no sense in that at all. Just then, her head struck the roof of the hall. In fact, she was now almost 3 meters high. She at once took out a small key and went back to the door. Oh, Alice. Now she was too tall. She could only lay down on one side to get a look at the garden with one eye. But she definitely could not get through. So she sat down and had another good cry. Shame on you, Alice. A great big girl like you. To cry in this way. Stop it at once, I tell you. But she still cried, and shed tears till there was a large pool all around her, which reached halfway down the hall. Then she heard the sound of feet not far off, so she dried her eyes in great haste to see who it was. It was the White Rabbit that had come back, dressed in fine clothes, with a pair of white kid gloves in one hand, a large fan in the other. He trotted on in great haste and talked to himself. Oh, the Duchess, oh, she won't be in such a fine rage if I've made her wait. Alice felt so bad and so in need of help from someone that when the rabbit came near, she said in a low, timid voice, "You please, sir." The rabbit was startled, dropped the white kid gloves and the fan, ran off in the dark as fast as the 2 hind feet could carry him. Alice took up the fan and the gloves, and as the hall was quite hot, she fanned herself all the time, talking on. Oh dear, dear, how strange all things are today. But I have been changed in the night. Let me think. Was I the same when I got up today? Seems to me I didn't quite feel the same. But if I'm not the same, then who in the world am I? Then she thought of all the girls that she knew that were her age, to see if she could maybe have changed into one of them. Sure, I'm not Ada, she said, for her hair is far too long and curly, and mine doesn't curl at all. I'm sure I can't be Mabel. Well, I know all sorts of things, and she knows so very little. Strange this all is. I'll try if I know of all the things that I used to know. Let me see, 4 times 5 is 12, and 4 times 6 is 13, and 4 times 7 is up. Dear, that's not right at all. I must have been changed to Mabel. I'll try to sing one of my favorite songs. She placed her hands on her lap as if she were at school and tried to say the lyrics, but her voice was hoarse and strange. The words did not come out as they used to. Sure, those are not the right words, said Alice. I forgot to disable the... God, I'm sorry for that. I just kind of got brain fucked. Give me 1 minute. Thank you for the follow. Axel window. I have to go into my alerts and, like, mute them while I'm doing this, because that's gonna give me a fucking heart attack. We're just gonna disable alerts for now, guys. Just for now, so we can continue with the hair. I forgot that was a thing to do. I'm sorry if anybody got jump scared by that. I can't believe how destructive I am. It's okay, Axel. It's my first day doing ASMR. I knew this was gonna be scuffed. Just, you saved me. Okay, I'm gonna go back to reading Alice in Wonderland for chat. Okay. Okay. Let me just pick up where I left off. Yes, jump scare, Lumi. I'm sorry, that scared me too. Everyone in chat, okay? Do you all want head pats? Here, I can give you head pats. Here you go. It's okay. There. It's okay. Don't be afraid of the jump scare follow notification. I promise they won't hurt you. Okay, I'm gonna go back to reading now. As she said this, she looked down at her hand and saw that she had put on one of a white rabbit's gloves while she was talking. Could I have done that? She thought. I must have grown small once more. She got up and went to the glass stand to test her height and found that she was now more than 60 centimeters high, still shrinking quite fast. She soon found out that the cause of this was the fan she held. She dropped it at once. She might have shrunk to the size of a gnat. Oh, gremlins. Oh, gremlin. Now I can fit into that garden. She ran with all her speed back to the small door, but the door was shut, and the key lay on the glass stand. Things are even worse now, thought the poor child. As she said these words, her foot slipped and splash! She was up to her chin in salt water. At first she thought it might be the sea, but then she soon made out that it was the pool of tears which she had wept when she was 3 meters high. I wish I hadn't cried so much, said Alice. She swam around and tried to find her way. I will now be drowned in my own tears. Then she heard a splash in the pool a little way off. She swam near to see what it was. At first she thought it must be a whale, but when she realized how small she was now, it would make more sense that it was a mouse that had slipped into the pond. Where it happened to be a mouse, of all things. Mouse out of its way. I should think maybe I can talk to it. There's no harm in trying. So she said, oh, mouse, do you know a way out of this pool? The mouse looked at her, seemed to wink one of its small eyes, but did not speak. It may be a French mouse, thought Alice. So she said, Oyster Chate. I don't know. Where is my cat? Which was all the French that she could think of then. The mouse gave a quick leap out of the water. It seemed to be in great fright. Oh, I beg pardon, cried Alice. I forgot you don't like cats. Cats, cried the mouse, in a shrill, harsh voice. Would you like cats if you were me? Well, I guess not, said Alice, but please don't get mad. I wish I could show you my cat, Dinah. Show you like cats if you'd see her. Such a dear thing. She sits and purrs by the fire and licks her paws and washes her face. Such a nice, soft thing. She's really good at catching mice. Oh dear, cried Alice. But this time the mouse was in great fright. They each stood with hair standing on each end. We won't talk about her if you don't like it. Ita, cried the mouse, who shook down at the end of his tail, as if I were to talk of such low, mean things as cats. All rats hate them. Don't let me hear that name again. I won't, cried Alice, in great haste to change the theme. Are you fond of dogs? The mouse did not speak, so Alice went on. There's such a nice dog near our house. I should like to show you. A tiny, bright-eyed dog. You know, the kind with the curly brown hair. It fetches things when you throw them. It'll sit up and beg for its meals and all sorts of things. I can't tell you the half of them, and it kills rats and it... Oh dear, cried Alice in a sad tone. I've made it mad again. The mouse swam off from her as soon as it could, and made quite a stir in the pool as it went. So she called in a soft, kind voice, Mouse dear, do come back, and we won't talk of cats or dogs if you don't like them. When the mouse heard this, it turned around and swam back to her. Its face was quite pale, with rage, Alice thought. And it said in a low, meek voice, Let us go to the shore. and then I'll tell you why I hate cats and dogs. It was high time to go, for the pool was quite crowded with all the birds and beasts that had slipped into it. Alice led the way, and they all swam to shore. Okay. Chapter 3. A Race. They were a funny-looking crowd as they stood or sat on the bank. The wings and tails of birds dropped to the earth, the fur of the beasts clung close to them, and all were as wet and cross as could be. The first thought, of course, was how to get dry. They had a long talk about this, and Alice joined in as if she knew them all. She had known them all her life. But it was hard to tell what was best. What I want to say, at last spoke up the dodo, is the best thing to get dry to be a race. What kind of race? Asked Alice. Not that she much wanted to know, but the dodo had paused as if it thought of something it ought to speak, but no one else would say the word. Why? Said the dodo. The best way to make it plain is to do so. And as you might like to try the things you could I butchered that, sorry. And as you might like to try the thing some cold day, I'll tell you how the dodo did it. First it marked out a race course, a sort of ring. Didn't care much for the shape. And then all the crowd were placed in the course. Here and there was no 1, 2, 3, here we go, but they all ran when they liked, and they left off when they liked, and none of them could tell when the race had ended. But when they had the running for about a half an hour or so, they were all quite dry. And the dodo called out, "The race is over." And they all crowded around and asked, "But who's won?" And the dodo could not at first tell, but sat for a long time with one claw pressed onto its head, while the rest waited, but did not speak. Last the dodo said, "I have won, and each must have a prize." "But who is to give them?" they all asked at once. "Why, she is, of course," said the dodo as it pointed at Alice, and with one long claw, and the whole party once crowded around her as they called out, "A prize! A prize!" Alice did not know what to do, but she pulled from her pocket a box of little cakes. By strange good luck, they did not get wet while she was in the pool, and she handed them round as prizes. There was one prize for all. "But she must have a prize, you know," said the mouse. "Of course," Dodo said. "What else have you got?" She went on till she turned to Alice. "A thimble," said Alice, looking quite sad. "And it is," said the Dodo. And they all crowded round her once more, while the Dodo handed the thimble back to Alice and said, "We beg that you accept this fine thimble." But when it had made this short speech, they had all cheered. Alice thought the whole thing quite foolish. They all looked so serious that she did not dare to laugh, that as she could not think of what to say, bowed and took the thimble, while she looked as serious as she could. The next thing was to eat the cakes. This caused some noise, as the large birds said they could not taste theirs, and the small ones choked and had to be patted on the back. When it was over at last, they had all sat down in the ring and begged the mouse to tell them the tale. "You said you would tell us why you hate cats and dogs," said Alice. "Mine is a long and sad tale," said the mouse, as it turned to Alice with a sigh. "It is a long tale, I'm sure," said Alice, looking down at the mouse's tail. "But why do you call it sad?" "I shall not tell you," said the mouse as it got up and walked off. "Please, come back and tell us your tale," called Alice, and all joined in. "Yes, please do." But the mouse shook his head and walked on, and was soon out of sight. I wish I had our Dinah here. I know I do, said Alice. She'd soon fetch it back. And who is Dinah, if I may dare to ask such a thing, said one of the birds. Alice was glad to talk of her pet. Dinah is our cat. She's such a fine one, too. She catches mice, and I can't think. Oh, I wish you could see her chase birds. Why, she'd soon as eat a bird as look at it. This speech caused quite a great stir in the party. Some of the birds rushed off at once, and one old jay wrapped itself up with a care and said, I must get home. That doesn't suit my throat. Wren called out to her brood, Come, my dears. By time we were all in bed. Soon they had all moved off, and Alice was left alone. I wish I hadn't told them of Dinah, she said to herself. No one seems to like her down here. I'm sure she's the best cat in the world. My dear Dinah, shall I ever see you any more? And here poor Alice burst into tears, for she felt very sad and lonely. In a short time she had heard the patter of feet. She looked up, with the hope that the mouse had changed its mind and come back to tell her its long and sad tale. Okay, chapter 4. The rabbit sends in a bill. It was the white rabbit who trotted back again. It looked from side to side as it went as if it had lost something, and Alice heard it say to itself, The Duchess, Duchess, oh my dear paws, shall get my head cut off as soon as the rats are rats, as sure as a rat's a rat. Where can I have lost them? Alice guessed at once and looked where, in search of the fan and the pair of white kid gloves. And, like the good girl she was, she set out to hand them for him. But they were not to be found. All the things seemed to have changed since her swim in the pool. The great hall with the glass stand and the little floor, they were all gone. As soon as the rabbit saw Alice, he called out to her, Why, Anne, what are you here for? Run home at once and fetch me a pair of gloves and my fan, quick, now. And Alice was in such a fright that she ran off and did not wait to tell it who she was. He took me for his housemaid, she said to herself. What will he think when he finds out who I am? But I must take his fan and gloves, if I can find them. She said this, she came to a small, neat house, the door of which was a bright breastplate, a bright brass plate with the name W. Rabbit on it. She ran upstairs in the great fear that she would meet Anne, and turned out of the house before she had found the fan and gloves. Funny it seems that I should do such things for a rabbit. I guess Dinah will wait for me next. By this time she had made her way to a tidy room with a table near the wall, and on it she had hoped there was a fan and 2 or 3 pairs of small white kid gloves. She took up the fan and the gloves and turned to leave the room, when her eye fell into a small box that stood near. There was no tag this time with the words, Drink me. Alice put it to her lips. I know I'm sure to change in some way if I eat or drink anything. So I'll just see what this does. I hope it'll make me grow large again. I'm quite tired of this size, Alice said to herself. It did as she had wished. For in some short time she had in some short time her head pressed to the roof so hard that she couldn't stand up straight. She put the bottle down in haste and said, that's as much as I need. I hope I won't grow any more. As it is, I cannot even get through the door. I do wish I hadn't drunk so much. But it was too late to wish that. She grew and grew, till she had to kneel down to the floor. Next there was not room for her, and she had to lie down, Still she grew and grew, till she had to put one arm out of the window and one foot up a chimney. She said to herself, now I can do no more. But come out that way, it seemed no sort of chance that she would ever get out of that room. I wish I was at home, thought poor Alice, where I could change back so much that I wouldn't have to do things for mice and rabbits. I wish I had gone down that rabbit hole. And yet, it's funny, you know, this sort of life. I used to read fairy tales and I thought they were just made up some. Now I hear finding myself in one. Grow up, I'll write a book about these strange things. When I'm a grown up, she added in a sad tone. At least there's no room to grow any more here. She heard a voice outside and stopped to listen. Anne, Anne, said the voice, fetch me my gloves quick. Then came the sound of feet up the stairs. Alice knew it was the rabbit that had come to look for her. She quaked with her feet and she stood as she shook the house. Poor thing. She didn't think that it was now more than 10 times as large as the rabbit, and that she had no cause to be afraid of it. Soon the rabbit came to the door and tried to come in, but Alice's arm pressed so hard on the door that it would not move. Alice heard it say, then I'll go round and get in at the window. That you won't, thought Alice, and then she waited till she heard the rabbit quite near the window, and spread out her hand, and made a snatch in the air. She did not get a hold of it, but she heard a shriek and a fall. Next came an angry voice, the rabbit's. Pat, pat, what are you? And the voice which was new to her. Sure then, I'm here, digging for apples, your honour. Digging for apples, indeed, said the rabbit. Come here, come and help me out of this. Now tell me, Pat, what's that in the window? Sure, it's an arm, your honour. Ah, you goose, whoever saw that on that size? Why, it fills the whole window. Sure does, your honour, but it's an arm for that for sure. Well, it has no right to be there. Go on, take it out. For a long time they seemed to stand there, but now and then Alice could hear a few words in a low voice. Sure, I don't like it, your honour, but at all. Do as I tell you, you coward. And at the last she spread her hand and made a snatch at the air. This time there were 2 little shrieks. I should like to know what they do next. Their threats to pull me out. I only wish I could. Sure, I don't want to stay in here. She waited for some time, but all was still, and at last came the noise of a small cartwheel and the sounds of voices, from which she made out the words, Where's the other ladder? Why, I hadn't bring one, but Bill's got the other. Bill, fetch it here, lad. Tell him to put it up in this place and tie him up first. And reach half as high as you should get off. That'll do here, Bill. Catch this rope. The roof bare? And that loose slate. Oh, here she comes. Look out. A loud crash. Oh no, who did that? It was Bill. I guess he's to go down the chimney. I shan't do it. You won't then. Well, Bill's got to go down there. Here, Bill. I've got to get you down the chimney. Oh, so Bill's got to come down, has he? Said Alice to herself. I'll have to put in all the work on Bill. Wouldn't be Bill's place for a good deal, but this fireplace is small. I'm sure I think I can get some. She drew her foot as far back down as she could. Waited till she heard a small beast. She couldn't guess what sort it was. Scratch down the chimney, quite close to her, and then said to herself, Is this Bill? And gave one sharp kick. waiting to see what would happen next. The first thing she heard, "There goes Bill," from the rabbit's voice. "Catch him by the hedge." And then all was still. And the voices, "Hold up. Hold up his head. Water now, don't choke him. How was it, old fellow? What sent you up so fast? Tell us all about it." Next came a weak voice. "That's Bill's, not Alice." "I don't know. No more, thank you. I'm not so weak now. But I'm a deal too shocked to tell you. All I know is the thing comes at me like a jack in the box, and up I goes like a rocket." "So you did, old fellow," said the others. "We must burn the house down," said the rabbit's voice, and Alice called out as loud as she could, "If you do so, I'll send Dinah after you." But once she was all still, Alice thought, what would they do next? If I had any sense, I'd take the roof off. And then she heard the rabbit say, "One load will do the start." "Load of what?" thought Alice. She not long out of doubt. Soon the shower of small stones came out the window, and some of them would hit her in the face. "I'll put a stop to this," she said to herself and shouted, "You stop that at once." Again, all was still. Alice saw the stones all change to small cakes as they lay on the floor. And a bright thought came to her. If I eat one of these cakes, it's sure to make my size change. And as it can make me larger, I hope it will change me to the size I used to be. So she ate one of the cakes, and was glad to see that she shrank quite fast. Soon she was so small that she could get through the door. So she ran out of the house, and found quite the crowd of beasts and birds in the yard. Poor lizard Bill was amidst the group, held up by two guinea pigs, who gave him something to drink out of a bottle. They had all made a rush at Alice, and as soon as they came out, but she ran off as hard as she could, and was soon safe in the thick wood. "The first thing I've got to do," said Alice to herself, as she walked along the wood, "is to grow to my right size again. The next thing is to find what way that lovely garden, and to think what will be the best plan." It was a good plan, no doubt, but a very hard thing that she was not out and at least to know how she would start to work it out. And while she peered around through the trees, a sharp bark just over her head made her look up in great haste. A great puppy looked down at her round eyes, stretched out paw, and tried to touch her. "Poor thing," said Alice, in a kind tone, and tried hard to show that she wished it to be its friend, but she was a bit scared and it might eat her up. Alice could not think of what to do next. She picked up a bit of stick and held it out to the puppy. It jumped from the tree with a yelp of joy, as if it were to play with it, and Alice dodged up round a large plant and stood near, but the puppy soon found her and made a rush at the stick again. It tumbled head over heels in its haste to get a hold of it. At least to her joy, it seemed to grow tired of the sport, ran a good way off and sat down, with its tongue out of its mouth and its big eyes half shut. This seemed to do Alice good and This seemed to Alice a good time to get out of its sight. So she sat up at once, and she ran till she was quite tired and out of breath, until the puppy's bark sounded quite faint. "And yet, what a dear puppy it was," said Alice, as she stopped to rest and fanned herself with a leaf. "I would have liked to have someone to teach it some tricks. If it had been the right size too, oh dear, I've got to grow up again. Let me see, how am I to do it? Yes, I ought to eat or drink something, but I don't know what." Alice looked around at all the blades of grass and blooms and leaves, but could not see a thing that looked like the right thing to eat or drink to make her grow. There was a large mushroom near her, and about the same height as she was. And when she had looked all around, she thought that she might as well look to see what was on top of it. Stretched up as tall as she could, her eyes met those of a large blue caterpillar, sat up on top of its arms folded, smoking a pipe, with a long stem that bent and curved around like a hoop. Zipper. So that would probably be a bit. Be able to read it. I will give myself a moment. And we will go on with chapter 5. The caterpillar looked at Alice, stared at it, but did not speak. At least it took up the pipe from its mouth and said, "Who are you?" Alice said, "I'm not sure who I am just now. I don't know who I was when I left home, but I think things have changed 2 or 3 times since then." "What do you mean by that?" asked the caterpillar. "I fear I can't tell you, for I'm not sure. I don't know myself. But to change so many times in one day, it makes one's head swim." "It doesn't," said the caterpillar. "Or maybe you haven't experienced it yet," said Alice. "But when you have changed, you will someday know. I think you'll feel strange, won't you?" "Not a bit," said the caterpillar. "Well, you may not feel as I do," said Alice. "All I know is it feels strange to me to change so much." "You," said the caterpillar, its nose full of air. "Who are you?" Which brought them back to the point at which they had started. Alice was not pleased at this, so she said in as stern voice as she could, "I think you ought to tell me who you are first." "Why?" said the caterpillar. As Alice could not think of what to say at this point, she did not seem to want to talk. She turned away. "Come back," said the caterpillar. "I have something to say to you." Alice turned back. "Keep your temper," said the caterpillar. "Is that it?" Alice asked. Just strange, her anger was as well as it could. Staggering her anger as well as it could. "No," said the caterpillar. Alice waited for what seemed a long time, while it sat and smoked, but it did not speak. At last it took up the pipe from its mouth and said, "You think you're changed, do you?" "I fear I am, sir," said Alice. "I don't know what things I once did. I don't keep the same size, but for a short while at a time." "What things is it you don't know?" "Well, I've tried to say things I know at school, but all the words came out wrong." "Let me hear a poem," said the caterpillar. Alice folded her hands and began to recite a poem. "You're an old Father William," the young man said, "and your hair has become very white, and yet you stand all the time on your head. Do you think at your age it is right? In my youth, Father William said to his sons, I feared it might injure the brain, but now I know full well I have none. Why do I do it again and again?" "You're old," said the youth. "Shall I tell you once more? And now quite as large as a turn. tongue. Yet you turned a back somber set in at the door. Pray tell me now, how was it that done? In my youth, said the sage, as he shook his grey locks, I kept my limbs very supple, then used this ointment 1 shilling a mox, although me to sell you a couple. You're old, said the youth, and your jaws are too weak for anything tougher than suet. Yet you ate up the goose with the bones in the beak. Pray did you man age to do it? In my youth, said his father, I took to the law, and argued each case with my wife. And very great strength, which I gave to my jaw, has lasted the rest of my life. You are old, said the youth. One would hardly suppose that your eye was steady as ever. You balanced an eel at the end of your nose, which makes you always so clever. I replied to their questions, and that is enough, said the father. Don't give yourself airs. Do you think I can listen all day to such stuff? Be off, or I'll kick you downstairs. That's not said right, said the caterpillar. Not quite right, I fear, said Alice. Some of the words are changed. It is wrong from the first to the last, said the caterpillar, that did not speak for some time, and at last said, What size do you want to be? Oh, I don't care so much as for size. I just don't like to change so much, you know. I don't know, the caterpillar said. Alice was too much vexed to speak, for she had never in all her life been talked to in such a rude way. Do you like your size now? Asked the caterpillar. Well, not quite so large as I'd like to be, said Alice. 10 centimeters a bit too small. But it is a great height, said the caterpillar, as he reared itself straight as it spoke. It was also 10 centimeters high. But I'm not used to it, pleaded poor Alice, and she thought, I wish the animals wouldn't get so mad at me. You'll get used to it in time, the caterpillar said, and it put its pipe to its mouth. And Alice waited till it could choose to speak, and at last it took the pipe from its mouth, yawned once or twice, and got down from its perch and crawled off into the grass. As it went, it said, One side will make you tall, and one side will make you small. One side of what? Thought Alice to herself. Of the mushroom, said the caterpillar, just as if it heard her speak as soon as it was out of sight. Alice stood and looked at the mushroom for a long time, and tried to make out which of the two sides it was. As it was round, she found it very hard to do such a thing to do so, and at last she stretched her arms around as far as she could go and broke off a bit from each edge with each hand. Which is which? She said to herself. She ate a small piece of the right hand bit and tried to try and see what it would do. The next moment she felt her chin strike the roof with a hard blow. She was in a sore fright, as quick as it changed, but she felt that there was no more time to be lost, as she would be shrinking so fast. So she set to work at once at eating some from the left hand bit. My hands free at last, she said with great joy. She changed to fear the moment that her waist and hands were nowhere to be seen. All she could see was when she looked down was a vast length of neck. It seemed to raise like a stalk from a tree, with giant green leaves lay far wide beyond. What can all this green stuff be? said Alice. And where is my waist? Oh, my poor hands, how is it I can't see you? She moved them as she spoke. The green leaves shook as if she knew her hands were there, but she could not see them. As there seemed to be no chance to get her hands up to her head, she tried to get her head down there, and was pleased to find that her neck would bend just like a snake, just as it had curved down and met the dive of the sea of the green, which she had found on the tops of the trees. A sharp hiss made her draw back in haste. A large bird had flown into her face and struck her with its wings. Snake! Snake! Screamed the bird. I'm not a snake. Leave me alone. Snake! Snake! Cried the bird, which added a kind of sob. I've tried all the ways, but I cannot suit them. I don't know what you mean, said Alice. The bird seemed to hear her own voice and went out. I've tried the roots of the trees, and I've tried the banks, and I've tried the hedge, and those snakes, there's no way to place them. With the hard work of the catch of the eggs, I must watch the snakes night and day. Why haven't a wink of sleep in these last 3 weeks? It's too bad for you to be so much put out, said Alice, who began to see what she meant. And just as I built my nest in this high tree, the bird went on raising its voice and shrieking. Just as I had thought we were free of them. Oh, at last, a snake! But I'm not a snake, said Alice. I'm a... Well, what are you? Said the bird. I can see you're not to tell me the truth. I'm a little girl, said Alice, though she was not sure that when she thought of all the changes she had gone through that day. I've seen little girls in my time, but none with such a neck as that, said the bird. No, no, you're a snake. There's no use to say you're not. I guess you'll say next that you don't eat eggs. Well, of course I eat eggs, said Alice, but girls eat eggs quite as much as snakes do, you know. I don't know, said the bird, but if they do, then they're that kind of snake, and that's all I can say. This was such a new thing for Alice at first that she did not speak, to give the bird a chance to add, You want eggs now? I know that quite well, but I don't want eggs. And if it didn't, I didn't want yours. I don't like them raw. I'll be off, said the bird, as it sat down its nest. Alice crouched down through the trees as well as she could for her neck, spun around the branches, and now and then she had stopped to get it off. And at last she thought of the mushrooms in her hands. She set to work with great care and took a small bite from the first on the right hand, and then a small from the left, till at length she brought herself down to the right side. It was so long since she had been the right height. She felt quite strange at first, but soon got used to it. And there's half my plan down now. Strange all these things are. I'm not sure 1 hour I'll still be the next. But I'm glad I'm back to my right size. The next thing is, I need to get into that garden. How is it to be done? I should like to know. As she said this, she saw in front of her a small house, not more than 4 feet high. Who lives there? Thought Alice. It's not to do as which I come down my size, but why should I care to see them off at my wits? So she ate some of the right-hand bit, and again she did not dare to go near the house till she had brought herself down to about 20 centimeters high. Hi, I'm from Russia. I'm sorry, but I don't speak English. I'm writing through a translator, and I wish you all a good mood. Thank you very much. I appreciate the support. Okay. Chapter 6 Pig and Pepper. For a while Alice stood and looked at the house and tried to think of what to do next, when a footman ran out from the wood. From the way he was dressed, she took him for a footman, though if she had judged by his face, she would have called him a fish. And not, oh, and knocked at the door with his fist. A footman with a round face, large eyes, came to the door. Alice wanted to know what all this meant, so she crept in a short way out of the door to hear what they said. The fish footman took from under his arm a great letter and handed it to the other man. He said with a grave tone, "For the Duchess from the Queen." The frog footman said with the same grave tone, "From the Queen for the Duchess." They both bowed with their low heads and touched. All this made Alice laugh so much that she had to run back to the wood for fear that they would hear her. When she next peeped out, the fish footman was gone. And there sat on the ground near the door and stared up at the sky. Alice went up to the door and knocked. "There's no sort of use for you to knock," said the footman. "I'm not on the same side of the door that you are. There's so much noise in the room that no one could hear you." There was indeed a great noise in the house, a howling and sneezing, with now a great clash as if a dish or pot had been broken to pieces. "Please then," said Alice, "how am I to get in?" "There might be some sense in you knocking," the footman went on. "If we were not both on the same side of the door, if you were in the room, you might knock that I could let you out. You know, he looked up at the sky all the time he was speaking, which Alice had thought quite rude, but perhaps he could help, she thought. His eyes were so near the top of his head, still he might tell me what I asked him. "How am I to get in?" she asked. "I shall sit here," the footman said, "till tomorrow." Just then the door of the house flew open, and a large pail skimmed out straight at his head. Oh, sorry. The door flew open, and a large plate skimmed out straight at his head. It just grazed his nose and broke on one of the trees near him. Or next day, maybe. He went out in the same tone that he had not seen the plate. "How am I to get in?" asked Alice, as loud as she could speak. "Are you to get in at all?" he said. "That's the first thing, you know." It was, no doubt, but Alice didn't like to be told so. The footman seemed to think of a good time to say again, "I shall sit here on and off for days and days." "But what am I to do?" said Alice. "You do what you like," he said. "Oh, there's no use to try to talk to him, said Alice. "He has no sense at all." She opened the door and went in. The door led right into a large room that was full of smoke from end to end. The Duchess sat at a stool and held a child in her arms. A cook stood near the fire and stirred a large pot, which seemed to be full of soup. "There's too much pepper in that soup," Alice said to herself as well as she could, with sneezing. There was too much of it in the air. The Duchess sneezed now and then. As for the child, it howled all the time. A large cat sat on the hearth, grinning from ear to ear. "Please, would you tell me," said Alice, not quite sure of what it was for her to speak of. "Why is your cat grinning like that?" "It's a Cheshire cat," said the Duchess. "That is why." She said that last word so loud that Alice jumped. As soon as she saw that the Duchess spoke to the child and not to her, she went on. "I don't know that Cheshire cats grinned. In fact, I didn't know that cats could grin at all." "They can," said the Duchess, "and most of them do." "Don't know any that do," said Alice, quite pleased to have someone to talk to. "You don't know much," said the Duchess, "and that's a fact." Alice did not like the tone at which she was said. Thought it would be well to speak of something else while she tried to think of what to say. The cook took a pot from the fire and at once was set to work, throwing things at the Duchess and the child. The tongs came in first, then pots, pans, plates, cups, and a few things from the air. The Duchess did not seem to see even where they hit her, and the child had bellowed so loud that for a while no one could tell if the blows hurt or not. "Oh, please mind what you do," cried Alice, as she jumped up and down, with great fear, at least not to be struck. "Hold your tongue," said the Duchess, and she began to sort songs to the child, which gave a hard shake at the end of each line. At the end of the song, she threw the child at Alice and said, "Here, you may nurse it a bit if you like. I must go and get ready to play croquet with the Queen." And she left the room in great haste. The cook threw a pan after her, and she went, but just missed her. Alice caught the child, which held out its arms and legs at all sides, just like a starfish. Alice thought, the poor thing just snorted like a steam engine. She caught it and turned out so much that, as it was, she could do it all first to hold it. As soon as she found out a great way to nurse it, which was to twist up in a sort of knot and keep tight hold of its right ear and left foot, she took it out of the fresh air. "Didn't take the child with me," thought Alice. "They were sure to kill it in a day or two. What would be wrong if we leave it here?" She said the last words out loud, and the child grunted. It had left off sneezing by this time. "Don't grunt," said Alice. "It's not at all the right thing to do." The child grunted again. Alice looked at its face. What was wrong with it? There could be no doubt that it had turned up its nose, which was more like a snout than a child's nose. Its eyes were quite too small. In fact, it did not even look like that thing at all. Perhaps it was not a grunt, but a sob. She looked out to see were its tears from its eyes. Oh, those were not tears. "You're going to turn into a pig, my dear," said Alice. "I have no more to do with you." Mind now, the poor thing sobbed more and more and grunted. Alice could say which. Very creepy imagery in this. I'm not gonna lie. I've never actually read this whole thing, so this is interesting. "What am I to do with this thing when I get home?" thought Alice, just as it grunted so loud that she looked at its face with some fear. This time there could be no doubt about it. It was a pig. She sat it down in the felt glade and saw it trot off into the wood. As she turned to walk on, she saw the Cheshire Cat on the bough of a tree, in the bough of a tree, a few yards off. The cat grinned when it saw Alice. It looked like a good cat, she thought. Still, it had long claws and large teeth, so she felt she ought to be kind to it. "Puss," said Alice, "do please tell me which way I ought to walk from here?" "That depends a good deal on where you want to go," said the cat. "I don't much care where," said Alice. "Then you need not care which way you walk," said the cat. "So long as I get somewhere," Alice added. "Oh, you're sure to do that if you don't stop," said the cat. Alice knew that there was truth in what he spoke, so what sort of people lived near here? "In that way," said the cat, with a wave of his right paw, "there's a hatter, and in that way," with a wave of his left paw, "there's a March hare. Go to see the one you like. They're both mad." "But I don't want to go where mad folk live," said Alice. "Oh, you can't help that. We're all mad here. I'm mad, you're mad." "How do you know I'm mad?" asked Alice. "You must be," said the cat, "or you wouldn't have come here." Alice didn't think that proved it at all, but she went on. "And how do you know that you are mad?" First, said the cat, a dog's mad. Our dog's not mad. You grant that? Yes. Well then, the cat went on, you know, a dog growls when it's angry and wags its tail when it's pleased. Now I growl when I am pleased and I wag my tail when I am angry. So you see I am mad. I say the cat purrs. I do not call it a growl, said Alice. Call it what you like, said the cat. Do you play croquet with the queen today? I should like that, but I haven't been asked yet, said Alice. You'll see me there, said the cat, and then faded out of sight. Alice did not think it so queer as she was now used to these strange things, while she still looked at the place where it had been, to come back again at all at once. By the by, what came of the child? The cat asked. It turned into a pig, Alice said. Thought it would, said the cat, then once more faded out of sight. Alice wanted to. Alice waited a while to see if it would come back, and then walked on in the way that the March Hare was said to live. I've seen hatters, she said to herself. I'll go to see the March Hare. As she said this, she looked up and and the cat sat on the branch of a tree. Did you say pig or fig? Asked the cat. I said pig, P-I-G. And I wish you wouldn't come and go all at once like that. It would make me quite giddy. All right, said the cat. This time faded out in such a way that its tail went first, and then the last thing Alice saw was the grin, which stayed for some time after the rest had gone. Well, I've seen a cat without a grin, thought Alice, but not a grin without a cat. It's the strangest thing I've ever seen in my life. She soon came to the sight of a house which belonged to the March Hare. She thought it must be the right place, as the chimneys were shaped like ears, and the roof was thatched with fur. It was such a large house that she did not like to go near it while she was so small, so she ate a small piece from the left-hand bit of the mushroom, and it raised her to 60 centimeters high. She walked up to the house and thought with some fear lest this could be as mad as the cat had said. Chapter 7. The Mad Tea Party. There was a table set out in the shade of the trees in front of the house, and the March Hare and the Hatter were at tea. A dormouse sat between them and seemed to have gone to sleep. The table was long, and there were but three all crowded in one corner. No room, no room, they cried out, as soon as they saw Alice. There's plenty of room, she said, and sat down in a long armchair at the end of the table. Have some wine, the March Hare, in a kind tone, replied. Alice looked all round the table, but there was not a thing on it but tea. I don't see the wine, she said. There isn't any, said the March Hare. Then it wasn't polite of you to ask me to have wine, said Alice. It wasn't polite of you to sit down when no one asked you to have a seat, said the March Hare. I didn't know it was your table, said Alice. It's laid for more than three. Your hair wants cutting, the Hatter said. He looked hard at Alice for some time, and this was his first speech. You should learn not to speak to guests like that, said Alice. It's very rude. The Hatter sketched his eyes back wide, but all he said was, Why is a raven like a writing desk? Shall we have some fun now? Thought Alice. I think I can guess that, she added aloud. Do you mean that You can find out an answer to it? Asked the March Hare. I do, said Alice. Then you should say what you mean, the March Hare went on. I do, Alice said. At least, at least I mean what I say. That's the same thing, you know. Not the same thing a bit, said the Hatter. Why, you might have just as well said, what I eat is the same thing as what I see. You might as well just say, added the March Hare, that I like what I get is the same as I get what I like. You might just as well say, added the Dormouse, seemed to be talking in his sleep, that I breathe when I sleep is the same as I sleep when I breathe. It is the same with you, said the Hatter. No one spoke for some time, while Alice tried to think of all that she knew of ravens and desks, which wasn't much. The Hatter was first to speak. What day of the month is it? He said, turning to Alice. She had his watch around his hand, looked at it, and showed that, while it held to his ear, Alice thought for a while and said, The 4th. 2 days wrong, said the Hatter. But I told you butter wasn't suit my watch, he added with a scowl as he looked at the March Hare. It was the best butter, March Hare said. Yes, but some crumbs must have gotten in it, the Hatter growled. Shouldn't have put it in my bread with my bread knife. March Hare took the watch and looked at it, dipped it in his cup of tea, and looked at it again, with all he could think was, it was the best butter, you know. But what a funny watch, said Alice. It tells the day of the month, and it doesn't tell what the time is. Why should it? Growled the Hatter. Does your watch tell what year it is? Of course not, said Alice. There's no need that it should, since it says the same year. It stays the same year for such a long time. Which is just the case with mine, said the Hatter. Seemed to Alice to have no sense in it whatsoever. Don't quite know what you mean, she said. The Dormouse has gone to sleep once more, and the Hatter then poured some hot tea to the tip of its nose. The Dormouse shook its head, with its eyes still closed. Of course, of course. I just wanted to say it myself. Have you guessed the riddle yet? The Hatter asked, turning to Alice. No, I give it up, she said. What is the answer? I don't know it at all, said the Hatter. Nor I, the March Hare. Alice sighed. I think you might do better with the time than to waste it by asking riddles that you have no answers to. If you knew time as well as I do, you wouldn't say waste it. It's him. I don't know what you mean, Alice said. Of course you don't, said the Hatter with a toss of his head. I dare say you never even spoke to time. Maybe not, she said, but I know I have to beat time when I learn to sing. Oh, that's it, said the Hatter. He won't stand beating. Now, if you kept at good terms with him, he would do anything you liked. The clock, say it was 9 o'clock, it's time to go to school. But you'd have to give a hint to the time. To round goes the clock. 1:30, time for lunch. I wish it was, the March Hare said to himself. It would be so grand, I'm sure, said Alice. But then I shouldn't be so hungry for it, you know. Not at first. Perhaps you should keep it 1:30 as long as you like, said the Hatter. Is that the way you do? Said Alice. The Hatter shook his head and sighed. No, he said. The time it fell out last March. It was a great concert given by the Queen of Hearts that I had to sing. Twinkle, twinkle, little bat, how I wonder where you're at. Oh, you know the songs, perhaps. I've heard something like that, said Alice. It goes on, you know, the Hatter said in this way. Up above the world you fly, like a tea tray in the sky. Twinkle, twinkle. Here the Dormouse shook itself and sang itself to sleep. Twinkle, 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 and then went so long that it had to pinch it to make it stop. Well, I sang the first verse, and Cato went on. Queen bowled out and sighed murders of time, which has had, ever since seen, that ever since that he wouldn't do a thing I ask. It's always 6 o'clock now. A bright thought came to Alice's head. Is this why so many tea things are put out here? She asked. Yes, that's it, said the Hatter with a sigh. It's always tea time, and we've no time to wash things. Then you keep moving around, I guess, said Alice. Just so, said the Hatter, as things get used up. But when you come to a place where you started, what do you do then? Asked Alice. I'm tired of this, yawned the March Hare. I vote you tell us a tale. I fear I don't know one, said Alice. I want to clean up, spoke the Hatter. He moved on down, and the Dormouse moved to his place. The March Hare moved to the Dormouse's place, and Alice, none too well pleased, took up the place next to the March Hare. The Hatter was only one yet a good change from where Alice's good deal was way worse, as the March Hare had upset the milk jug into his plate. Now, for your story, the March Hare asked Alice. I don't know, Alice began. I don't think. Then you shouldn't think, said the Hatter. This is much more than Alice could stand. She had got up and walked off, and thought to look back once or twice, and half hoped they would call back to her. It seemed to know she was gone. The last time she saw them, they were trying to pour the Dormouse's head first into the teapot. Well, I'll not go there again, said Alice as she picked her way through the wood. The dullest tea party I was ever in my life. As Alice said this, she saw that one of the trees had a door that led right into it. That's strange, she thought. I haven't seen a thing today that isn't strange. Might as well go with it at once. And she went in. Once more she found herself in a long hall, closed with a little glass stand. She took up the little key and unlocked the door that led to the garden. She set to work to eat some mushrooms, which she had still had with her. She was about 30 centimeters high. She went through the door, walked down the long hall, and then she found herself at last at a lovely garden, where she had been bright blooms and cool fountains. We got 4 chapters left. Chapter 8, Queen's Croquet Ground. A large rose tree stood up near the garden gate. Blooms on it were white, but 3 men seemed to be in great haste painting them red. Alice thought this was a strange thing to do, so she went near to watch them. Just as she came up to them, she heard one of them say, "Look out, No. 5. Don't splash that paint on me." "I couldn't help it," said 5. 6 knocked my arm. On which 6 looked up and said, "That's right, 5. Don't fail to lay down the blame on someone else." "You needn't talk," said 5. "I heard the Queen say your head must come off." "For what?" asked the one who spoke first. "What's that to you, 2? said 6. It is much to him that I'll tell him," said 5. "He brought the cooked tulip roots instead of onions." 6 flung down the brush and said, "Well, if all the wrong things." Just then his eyes chanced to fall onto Alice, who stood and watched them as he checked himself once. 5 and 2 looked around also, and all of them bowed low. "Would you tell me, please," said Alice, "why do you paint these roses red?" 5 and 6 did not speak, but looked at 2, and said in a low voice, "The fact that you see here, miss, is that we ought to have but red roses on this, but by mistake we planted the white ones and if the Queen were to find out, we should have our heads cut off. So you see, miss, we're hard at work getting it painted, so she may not. Just then, five who stood and watched the gate seemed to call out to them, "The Queen! The Queen!" And the three men once threw themselves flat up against the fence. Alice heard the tramp of feet and looked around, glad if it was last that she had seen the Queen. First came 10 soldiers of clubs. They were all shaped like 3 men from Rose Tree, long flat cards with their hands and feet on the corners. Next came 10 men who were trimmed with diamonds, and walked two and two like soldiers. The 10 children of the king and queen came next. Little dears came with a skip and a jump, and the hands by twos. They were trimmed with hearts. Next came the guests, most of whom were the kings and queens. Alice saw the white rabbit with them. He did not seem at ease. Though he smiled at all that was said, he did not see Alice as he went by. Then came the knave of hearts, with the king's crown and red velvet cushion, and at last came the king and queen of hearts. At first Alice thought it might be the right of her to lie down and face like the 3 men of roses, but be the use of such fine show, she thought. If all had to lie down, they couldn't see it. So she stood where she was and waited. When they came to where she stood, they all stopped and looked at her, and the queen said in a stern voice, "Who is this?" She spoke to the knave of hearts, who bellowed and smiled but did not speak. "Who?" said the queen with a toss of her head. She turned to Alice and said, "What is your name, child?" "My name is Alice, so pleased your majesty," said Alice as she brought to herself. "Now they are a mere pack of carts. I have no need to fear them." "And who are these?" asked the queen, and she pointed to the 3 men who still lay around the rose tree. For you see they all lay their faces, and their backs were the same to rest as the pack, but she could not tell who they were. "How should I know?" said Alice. "I thought it strange that they should speak to the queen in that way." The queen turned red with rage and glared at him for a moment like a wild beast, and screamed, "Off with her head, off!" "Nonsense," said Alice in a loud, firm voice. The queen said no more. The king laid his hand on the queen's arm and said, "Think, my dear, she is but a child." The queen turned to him with a scowl and said to the knave, "Turn them over." The knave did so with one foot. "Get up," said the queen with a shrill, loud voice. The 3 men jumped at once and bowed to the king and queen of the whole crowd. "Leave off that," screamed the queen. It will make me giddy when she turned to the rose tree and asked, "What have you been doing here?" "May it please you, your majesty," said 2. We went down on one knee as he spoke. "We were trying—" "I see," said the queen to the man, who had no time to, who in the meantime had seen that some of the roses were painted red, while some are still white. "Off with their heads." The crowd moved on, while the 3 of the soldiers stayed to cut their heads off the poor men, who ran to Alice for help. "They shan't hurt you," she said. She hid them from the large flower pot that stood near. The 3 soldiers walked round and looked for them in short and marched off. "All their heads off," shouted the queen. "Their heads are gone, if it pleases you, majesty," the soldier shouted back. "That's right," shouted the queen. "Can you play croquet?" she asked Alice. "Yes," shouted Alice. "Come on, then," roared the queen, and Alice went off with them. "'Tis a fine day," said a weak voice at her side. It was the white rabbit, who had peeked up into the face. "Yes," said Alice. "Where's the Duchess?" "Hush, hush," said the rabbit in a low tone. He looked back and spoke and raised up a tiptoe. He put his mouth close to her ear and whispered, She's to have her head cut off. What for? Said Alice. Did you say, what a pity? The rabbit asked. No, I didn't, said Alice. I don't think it's a pity at all. I said, what for? She boxed the queen's ears. The rabbit began. Alice gave a little scream of joy. Oh, hush, the rabbit whispered in a great fright. The queen will hear you. See, she came late, and the queen said, each one to his place, shouted the queen in a loud voice. The people ran all this way and that in haste, and soon each one found his place, and the game began. Alice thought she had never seen such a strange croquet in all her life. It was all ridges and balls. They were live hedgehogs, and the mallets were live birds. The soldiers bent down and stood on their hands and feet to make arches. First Alice found it hard to use a live bird for a mallet. It was a large bird with a long neck and long legs. She tucked it under her arm, with the legs down, just as she got to the neck, straight away. Well, now she could give it a good blow with its head. The bird would twist its neck around and give her such a queer look that she could not help but laugh. And by the time she had gotten her head down again, she had found that the hedgehog had crawled off too. There was no there was always a ridge or a hole in the way of where she wanted to send her ball. She could not find an arch in its place, for the men would get up and walk off when it pleased them. Alice soon made up her mind that this was a very hard game to play. The queen was soon in great rage, and snapped about shouting off with his head or off with her head with each breath. Alice felt quite ill, and Alice felt quite ill at ease, to be sure. She had not yet had cause to feel wrath of the queen, but she knew not how soon it might be her turn. And then she thought, what should I do? She was looking around for some way to get away without being seen. She saw a strange thing in the air, which she at last made out to be a crane, and she said to herself, it's the cat. Now I shall have someone to talk to. How do you do? Said the cat, as his whole mouth came out. Alice waited till she saw the eyes and nodded. It's no use to speak to it till its ears have come out, or at least one of them. In a short time his whole head will become in view, and then she can put the bird down. Told him of the game, glad that she had someone that was pleased to talk to her for once. I don't think they're fair in this game, said Alice with a scowl. And they all talk so loud that no one can hear oneself speak. They don't have rules to play by. At least, if they do, they haven't the mind to let me know. I don't know how bad it is to use live things to play with. The arches I have to go through and just walk off now and far to the grounds. And now, should I have struck the queen's hedgehog, but it ran off and it saw the other way, it saw that mine was near. How do you like the queen? Asked the cat in a low voice. Not at all, Alice. She's so... Just then she saw the queen was behind her, and heard what she said, so she went on, sure to win. It's not worthwhile going on with this game. The queen smiled and passed on. Who are you talking to? Said the king, as he came up to Alice and stared at the cat's head as if it were a strange sight. It's a friend of mine, a Cheshire cat, said Alice. I don't like the look of it at all, said the king. May it kiss my hand if it liked. I don't want to, said the cat. Don't be rude, and don't look at me like that, said the king. A cat may look at a king, said Alice. I've read that in some book, but I can't tell where. Well, it must get off from here, said the king in a firm voice. and he called to the queen, who was near. My dear, I wish you would see this cat. Leaves here at once. The queen had but one cure for all ills, great or small. Off with his head, she said, and did not so much look around. I'll fetch the soldier myself, said the king, and he rushed off. Alice thought she might as well go back and see how the game went on. She had heard the queen's voice from a distance. She had screamed with rage, off with his head. Ah, he missed his turn. Alice did not like the look of things, so the game was a mix of what she could not tell where her turn came, so she went off to find the hedgehog. She came up with 2 hedgehogs in a fierce fight. She thought now was a good time to strike one of them. Her mallet was gone to the other side of the grounds, and she saw it in a weak sort of way as it tried to fly up into the tree. By the time she had caught the bird and brought it back down, the fight was over, and both hedgehogs were out of sight. I don't care much, thought Alice. There is no arch on this side of the grounds. She went back to have some more talk with a friend. When she reached the place that she had found the crowd around the cat, the king and queen and the soldiers had come with an axe to cut off the cat's head. They were all talking at once, while the rest stood up with closed lips as they were quite grave. As soon as they saw Alice, they wanted her to say which one was right, but as all 3 spoke, she found it hard to make out what she said. The soldier said you couldn't cut off the head unless it was the body to cut off from, and he had no such thing to do, so he wouldn't begin it now. The king said all heads must be cut off. You weren't to talk nonsense. The queen said if something wasn't done in less than no time, heads would be coming off all around. It was the last threat that would be made of a crowd once looked at Alice came. Alice could think of nothing else to say. Ask the Duchess if it's her cat. Fetch her here, the queen said to the soldier, as he went off like an arrow. The cat's head started to fade out of sight, and as soon as it was gone, by all that time he had come back to the Duchess. It could not be seen at all. The king and the man ran up down looking for it, while the rest went back to the game. Chapter 9. A Mock Turtle. You can't think of how glad I am to see you once more, you dear thing, said the Duchess, as she took Alice's arm, and they walked off side by side. Alice was glad to see her in such a fine mood, and thought to herself the Duchess might not be so bad as she had seemed when they first met. And Alice fell into a long train of thought of what to do if she were the Duchess. She was quite lost in sight with the Duchess by her side, as it was startled when she had heard the voice close to her ear. You have something on your mind, my dear, and it makes you forget to talk. I can't tell you just now what the moral of that is, but I shall think of it in a bit. Are you sure it has one? Asked Alice. Tut, tut, child, said the Duchess. All the things have moral if you can but find it. She had squeezed up close to Alice's side as she spoke. Alice did not like much to have the Duchess so close, but she didn't think to be rude, as she bore as well as she could. The game was not bad now, Alice said, thinking as she thought to film in. Alice said, thinking she thought to fill in the time with talk of some kind. "'Tis so," said the Duchess. "And the moral of it is, oh, 'tis love. 'Tis love that makes the world go round." One said it's done by each one's minding his own work, said Alice. "Ah, well, it means much the same thing," said the Duchess, and then added, "and the moral of that is, take care of the sense, and the sounds will take care of themselves." How she liked to find morals in things, said Alice. Why don't you talk more and not think so long, said the Duchess. I have a right to think, said Alice in a sharp tone, for she was tired and vexed. Just as much, uh, just as much right, says the Duchess, as pigs have to fly. And more, but the voice of the Duchess died out in the midst of her pet word, moral, and Alice felt an arm was more linked to hers as a snake it was to fright. Alice looked up at it and stood the Queen in front of them with her arms folded and a dark frown upon her face. A fine day, Your Majesty, the Duchess began with a weak voice. Now I warn you in time, shouted the Queen, with a stamp on the ground as she spoke. Either your head must be off, in that about half to no time. Take your choice. The Duchess took her choice, was gone in a moment. Let's go on with the game, the Queen said to Alice. Alice was in a great fright to speak, but went with her, back to the croquet grounds. The guests had all sat down at the side to rest the Queen while the Queen was away. But as soon as they saw her, they all rushed back to the game. The Queen was said, if they were not in their places at once, it would cost them their lives. All the time the game went on, the Queen kept shouting, off with his head, or off with her head, so that at the end of the half hour there was no one left on the grounds but the King, Queen, and Alice. Then the Queen left off, quite out of breath, and said to Alice, Have you seen the mock turtle yet? No, said Alice. I don't know what a mock turtle is. It's a thing mock turtle soup is made from, the Queen said. I've never seen or heard of one, Alice said. Come, then, we shall tell you his story, said the Queen. As they walked off, Alice heard the King say in a low tone with those whom the Queen had doomed to death, You may all go free, and that's a good thing, for Alice, for she had felt sad that all those men must have their heads cut off. They soon came to where a griffin lay fast asleep in the sun. If you don't know what it is like to look at the picture above, oh, well, there's an illustration of a griffin. I think you all know what it is. Up, dull thing, said the Queen, and take this young lady to see the mock turtle. I must go back now. And she walked away and left Alice with the griffin. Alice was by no means pleased with the looks, but she thought it quite as safe with it as she would be with the Queen, so she waited. The griffin sat up and rubbed its eyes and watched the Queen till she was out of sight. Then it laughed. What fun, it said, half to itself and half to Alice. What is fun? She asked. Why, she. It's all a whim of hers. She never cut off those heads, you know. Come on. As soon as I saw the mock turtle sitting sad and alone on the ledge of the rocks, as it came near, Alice could hear him sigh as his heart would break. What makes him so sad? Alice asked. It's all a whim of his, said the griffin. He hasn't got no grief. You know, come on. So they went up to the mock turtle, looked at them with large eyes full of tears, but did not speak. This here young lady, said the griffin. She wants to know about your past life, she do. I'll tell it to her, said the mock turtle in a deep voice, sad tone. Sit down, both of you, and don't speak a word till I get through. They both sat, and no one spoke for some time. Once, said the mock turtle at last, with a deep sigh, I was a real turtle. When we were young, we went to school in the sea. We were taught by an old turtle. We used to call him Tortoise. Why did you call him Tortoise if he wasn't one? Alice asked. He taught us that way, said the mock turtle. You're quite dull not to know that. Shame on you to ask such a simple thing, added the Griffin, when they both sat and looked at poor Alice, who felt like she could sink into the earth. At last the Griffin said to the Mock Turtle, "Drive on, old fellow. Don't be all day about it." And he went on with these words. "Yes, we went to school in the sea. Oh, you mayn't think it to be true." "I didn't say that, I did not," Alice said Alice. "You did," said the Mock Turtle. "Hold your tongue," added the Griffin. The Mock Turtle went on. "We were well taught. In fact, we went to school each day." "I've been to school days too," Alice said. "I didn't be so proud of it all." "Were you taught washing?" asked the Mock Turtle. "Of course not," said Alice. "Ah, then yours wasn't a good school," said the Mock Turtle. "Now at ours, they had at the end of the bill French, music, and washing extra. You couldn't have needed it much in C," said Alice. "I didn't learn it," said the Mock Turtle with a sigh. "I just took the first course." "What was that?" asked Alice. "Reeling and wreathing, of course," the Mock Turtle said. "An old eel used to come in once a week. He taught us to draw, and to stretch, and to faint in coils." "What was that like?" Alice asked. "I can't show you myself," he said. "I'm too stiff, and the Griffin didn't learn it." "How many hours a day did you do your lessons?" asked Alice. 10 hours the first day," said the Mock Turtle. 9 the next, and so on. "Strange plan," said Alice. "That's why they're called lessons," said the Griffin. "They lesson from day to day." This is such a new thing to Alice that she still had a good while didn't speak. "Well, then there would be a day when you would have no school," she said. "Of course," said the Mock Turtle. "What did you do then?" asked Alice. "I am tired of this," said the Griffin. "Now tell her now of the games we played." Chapter 10. The Lobster Dance. The Mock Turtle sighed and looked at Alice and tried to speak. For a minute or two, sobs choked out his voice. "Same as if he had a bone in his throat," said the Griffin, and set to work to shake him and punch him in the back. At the last, the Mock Turtle found his voice, and with tears running down his cheeks went on. "You may not have lived much in the sea." "I haven't," said Alice. "So you cannot know what a fine thing a lobster dance is." "No," said Alice. "What sort of dance is it?" "Why," said the Griffin, "it's the first form on a line on the seashore." "Two lines," cried the Mock Turtle. "Seals, turtles, and so on. Then when you've cleared all the small fish out of the way—" "That takes some time," put in the Griffin. "You move to the front twice, each with a lobster by his side," cried the Griffin. "Of course," the Mock Turtle said. "Move to the front twice, change and come back in the same way," said the Griffin. "Then you know," the Mock Turtle went on. "You throw the lobster," shouted the Griffin, "and with a bound into the air, as far out to the sea as you can." "Swim out for them," screamed the Griffin. "Turn heels over heads into the sea," cried the Mock Turtle. "Change again," yelled the Griffin at the top of his voice, "and then back to land." "That is all, first part," said the Mock Turtle. But both the Griffin and the Mock Turtle had jumped about like mad things all this time. Now they sat quiet, sad and still, and looked at Alice. "It must be a pretty dance," said Alice. "Would you like to see some of it?" asked the Mock Turtle. "Oh yes," she said. Come, let us try the first part, said the Mock Turtle to the Griffin. We can do it without lobsters, you know. Who shall sing? Oh, you sing, said the Griffin. I don't know the words. So they danced around and round, Alice now, then treading on her toes and passed too close. They waved their fore paws and marked their time while the Mock Turtle sang a queer song of each verse which ended in these words. Will you, won't you, will you, won't you, will you join the dance? Will you, won't you, will you, won't you, will you join the dance? Thank you. It was a fine dance to watch, said Alice, glad that it was over at last. Now, said the Griffin, tell us that what you have seen and done with your life. I could not tell you such strange things I have seen today, said Alice, with the same doubt of her wishing to hear it. All right, go on, they both cried. So Alice told them what had brought through the day, from the time that she had first seen the white rabbit come quite close to her, and on the side at which she had sat, she had gotten along to the part where to say a poem and words came out wrong, and the Mock Turtle drew a long breath and said, That's quite strange. It's all strange as can be, said the Griffin. It all came out wrong, the Mock Turtle said. Well, it seemed to be he seemed to be in deep thought. I should like to hear try and say something now. Tell her to begin. She looked at the Griffin as he thought it had the right to make Alice do so as it pleased. Stand up and say the poem, said the Griffin. How they do try to make one do things, thought Alice. I might just as well be at school at once. She stood up and tried to repeat it, but her head was so full of the lobster dance that she didn't know what she was saying, and the words came out very strange. It's not the way I used to say it when I was a child, said the Griffin. Well, I never heard it before, said the Mock Turtle. There's no sense in it at all. Alice did not speak. She sat down with her face in her hands and thought, well, things never be as they used to be any more. I should like to tell you what it means, said the Mock Turtle. She can't do that, said the Griffin. Go on with the next verse. But his toes, the Mock Turtle went on. How could he turn them out without his nose, you know? Go on with the next verse. Though she must do as she was told, she thought it felt sure that it would come out wrong, and she went on. What is the use of saying all that stuff? The Mock Turtle broke in. If you don't tell what it means when you go on. I tell you, it's all nonsense. Yes, I think you might as well leave off, said the Griffin, and Alice was but too glad to do so. Shall we try the lobster dance once more? The Griffin went on. Or would you like the Mock Turtle to sing you a song? Oh, a song, please, if the Mock Turtle would be so kind, Alice asked, with such zest that the Griffin threw back his head and said, well, each one to his own tastes. Sing her a turtle soup, will you, old fellow? The Mock Turtle heaved a deep sigh, and his voice choked with sobs, and began to sing his song. But just then, the cry of, The trial is on, was heard a long way off. Come on, cried the Griffin. He took her by the hand and ran off, but did not wait to hear the song. What trial is it? Alice panted as she ran, but the Griffin only said, Come on, and still ran as fast as he could. Chapter 11. Who Stole the Tarts? The King and Queen of Hearts were seated at the throne when Alice and the Griffin came up, with a great crowd around them. There were all sorts of small birds and beasts, as well as a whole pack of cards. The knave stood in front of them in chains, with a soldier on each side to guard him. And near the king was the white rabbit, with a trumpet in one hand and a roll of paper in the other. In the middle of the court was a table with a large dish of tarts on it. They looked so good, and it made Alice feel as if she would have to eat some of them. I wished I'd get the trial done, she thought. I'd had round the pies. There seems to be no chance of this. So she passed them away, and she looked round at the strange things around her. This was the first time Alice had been in a court of this kind, and she was quite pleased to find she knew the names of most of the things that she saw there. That's the judge, she thought, knowing by his great wig. The judge, by the way, was the king, and he was to wear, and as he wore his crown on top of his wig, he looked quite ill at ease. And that's the jury box, thought Alice. Those 12 things. She had to say things, for you see some of those were beasts and some were birds. I guess the jurors, she said at least the words 2 or 3 times. She was proud that she knew of it, for she was right. And when she thought of the few girls her age that wouldn't have known what it meant. 12 jurors are all on slates. What can they have to write down? Alice asked the Griffin in a low tone. The trial has not begun yet. They're putting down their names, the Griffin said, for fear they should forget them. Stupid things, Alice said with a loud voice. Stopped at once by the White Rabbit, cried out, Silence in the court! The king took around to make out who spoke. Alice could see quite well that the jurors all wrote down stupid things on their slates. She could even make out that one of them didn't know how to spell the word stupid, that she asked the one by her side for assistance. A nice middle of their slates will be by the time the trial's ended, thought Alice. One of the jurors had a pencil that squeaked as he wrote. This, of course, Alice could not stand. So she went round near him and soon found the chance to get in front of him. This she did, such in a way that the poor juror, it was Bill the lizard, they could not make out at all it was. So he wrote with one finger for the rest of the day. Of course, this was of no use, as it left no mark on the slate. Read the charge, said the king. On this the White Rabbit blew 3 blasts from his trumpet, and then from the paper in his hand read, The Queen of Hearts, she has made some tarts, all on a summer's day. The Knave of Hearts, he stole those tarts, and took them quite away. The jury will now take the case, said the king. Not yet, not yet, Rabbit said in haste. There's a great deal else to come first. Call the first witness, said the king, and the White Rabbit blew 3 blasts from the trumpet, and called out, First witness. First to come was the Hatter, and he came up with a cup of tea in one hand and a piece of bread and butter in the other. I beg pardon, your majesty, he said, but I had to bring these in, as it was not quite through my tea time when I was sent for. You ought to have been through, said the king. When did you begin? The Hatter looked at the March Hare, and just into the court, the arms of the arm in arm with the Dormouse. 4th of March, I think it was, he said. 5th, said the March Hare. 6th, said the Dormouse. Write that all down, the king said to the jury as they wrote down on the 3 dates on their slates, and added them up to change the sum to shillings and pence. Take off your hat, the king said to the Hatter. It isn't mine, said the Hatter. Stole it, cried the king, as he turned to the jury, who was once wrote down. I keep them to sell, the Hatter added. I've none of my own, I am a Hatter. Here the queen put on her glasses and stared hard at the Hatter, who turned pale with fright. Tell what you know of this case, said the king, and don't be nervous, or I'll have your head cut off on the spot. This did not seem to calm him down at all. He shifted from foot to foot in the other, and looked at the queen, and in his fright bit a large piece out of his teacup, a piece of bread and butter, in place of the bread and butter. Just then, Alice felt a strange thrill, because the cause of which could not make out till she saw she had begun to grow again. I wish you wouldn't squeeze so, said the Dormouse. I haven't room to breathe. I can't help it, said Alice. I'm growing. You've no right to grow here, said the Dormouse. Don't talk such nonsense, said Alice. You know you grow too. Yes, but not so fast as to squeeze the breath out of one who sit next to me. He got up all cross and sat on the other side of the court. All this time the Queen had not left off staring at the Hatter. Just as the Dormouse crossed the court, he said to one of the men, "Bring me the list of those who sang at the last concert," on which the poor Hatter trembled so that he shook both his shoes off. Tell you what I know of this case. Tell what you know of this case, the king called out again, or I'll have your head off if you do shake. I'm a poor man, your majesty, the Hatter spoke in a weak voice. I hadn't but just begun my tea not more than a week or so. And with that bread and butter so thin, and the twinkling of the tea. The twinkling of the what? Asked the king. Began with the tea, the Hatter said. Of course, twinkling begins with a T, said the king. You take me for a dance. Go on. I am a poor man, the Hatter went on, and most of the twinkling after, but the March Hare said. I didn't, said the March Hare with great haste. You did, said the Hatter. I deny it, said the March Hare. He denies it, said the king. Leave out that part. Well, I'm sure the Dormouse said. The Hatter went on to look at the Dormouse to see if he would deny it too, but he was fast asleep. And I cut some more bread and... But what did the Dormouse say? Asked one of the jury. That I can't tell, said the Hatter. You must tell, or I'll have your head cut off, said the king. The wretched Hatter dropped his cup of bread and went down on one knee. I am a poor man, he began. You're a poor speaker, too, said the king. Here, one of the guinea pigs cheered, and one of the men seized him and thrust him into a bag which tied up a string, and then sat upon it. That's all you know. You may stand down, the king said. As low as I can get now, said the Hatter. I am on the floor as it gets. You must sit down, the king said. I like to get through my tea first, the Hatter, said the Hatter with a look at the Queen, who was still reading the list in her hand. You may go, said the king, and the Hatter left the court in such haste that he didn't even wait to put his shoes on. And just take his head off outside, the Queen added, one of the soldiers, but the Hatter was out of sight before the man could get to the door. Call the next witness, said the king. Next to come was the Duchess's cook, and Alice guessed it was by the way the people near the door sneezed all at once. Tell me what you know of the case, said the king. I shan't, said the cook. The king looked at the White Rabbit and said with a low voice, Your Majesty must make her tell. Well, if I must, said the king, a sad look in his folded arms, and his frowned at the cook till his eyes were almost out of sight, and then asked in a stern voice, What are the tarts made of? Pepper, mostly, said the cook. Sugar, in a weak voice near him. Catch that dormouse, the Queen shrieked, off with his head. Turn him out the court, pinch it off with his head. The whole court ran out there, getting the dormouse turned out. By the time it was done, the cook had gone. That's all right, said the king, as we were glad to be rid of her. Call the next, and added in a low tone to the Queen. Now, my dear, you must take care the next witness in hand. Boy, it makes my head ache. Alice watched the White Rabbit as he looked over the list. She thought to herself, I want to see what the next witness will be, for they haven't found out much. Think if you can, she felt the White Rabbit read out at the top of the thrilled voice name, Alice. Last chapter, chapter 12, Alice on the stand. Yeah, cried Alice. She quite forgot how large she had grown in the last few minutes. She jumped up in such haste that the edge of her skirt tripped the jury box and turned all out and turned them all out on the heads of the crowd below. That is a sentence. And they were all sprawling out, which made her think the globe of goldfish which she had upset the week before. Oh, I beg your pardon, she said. I picked them up and put them back in the jury box as fast as I could. The trial cannot go on, the king said in a grave voice, till all the men are back in place. All, she said with great force, and looked at the king, looked at Alice. She looked at the jury box and saw that in her haste she had put the lizard in the head first, and the poor thing was waving its tail in the air, but could not move. She soon got it out and put it upright. None of that matters much, she thought. I should think that quite as much used to the trial in one way as the other. As soon as their slates and pencils were handed back to them, the jury set to work to write an account of the fall, but the lizard, who seemed too weak to write, but sat and gazed up into the roof of the court. What do you know of this case? The king asked Alice. Not one thing, said Alice. Not one thing at all? Asked the king. No, not one thing at all, said Alice. Write that down, the king said to the jury. The king sat for some time, and he wrote in his notebook, and then he called out, Silence, and read from his book. Rule 42. Each one more than a mile high to leave the court. All looked at Alice. I'm not a mile high. You are, said the king. Not far from 2 miles high, added the queen. Well, I shan't go, said Alice, for I know that is no rule that you have just made. This is the first rule in the book, said the king. Then I ought to be rule 1, said Alice. The king turned pale and shut his notebook at once. The jury can now take the case, he said in a weak voice. Is there more to come yet, please, your majesty, said the white rabbit as he jumped up. This thing has just been picked up. What's in it? Asked the queen. I haven't read it yet, said the white rabbit, but it seems to be a note from the Knave of Hearts to someone. Whose name's on it? Said the jurors. There's no name on it, said the white rabbit. He looked at it more with his care as he spoke and added, This isn't a note at all. It's a set of rhymes. Please, your majesty, said the knave. I didn't write it. They can't prove that I did. There is no name signed at the end. If you didn't sign it, said the king, that makes your case worse. You must have meant some harm when you signed in the name of an honest man. Oh, hello. Hello. New friend. Hi. We're just wrapping up the last chapter of Alice in Wonderland. All clapped their hands at this. That was the first smart thing the king had said all day. It proves his guilt, said the queen. It does not prove a thing, said Alice. Why you don't so much as know what rhymes are? Read them, said the king. Where shall I begin, your majesty? The white rabbit asked. Why, at the first verse, of course. The king was sad, looking quite grave. And go till you come to the end, and then stop. The white rabbit read. They told me you had been her, and spoke of me to him. He gave me a good name indeed, but said I could not swim. She sent them word, and I had gone. You know it to be true. If she should push the matter on, what would become of you? I gave her 1, they gave him 2, you gave us 3 or more. They came back from four, They all came back from him to you, though they were mine before. My notion was she liked him best, before she had his fit. This must be kept from all the rest, but him and you and it. How you doing? We're doing pretty good. This is our thank you for 200 followers special. We're doing a little bit of ASMR for the community. Hope you enjoy. That's the best thing we've heard yet, said the king, rubbing his hands as if much pleased. Now, let the jury. If one of you can tell me what it means, said Alice. She had grown large by this point, and she had no fear of the king. She would be glad to hear it. I don't think there's a grain of sense in it. People may have been falling asleep. It's okay. People can sleep with it. The jury all wrote down on their slates. She doesn't think there's a grain of sense in it, but no one tried to tell what it meant. There's no sense in it, said the king. That saves a world of work, you know. As we needn't try to find it. And yet I don't know, he went on as he spread out the rhymes on his knee and looked at them with one eye. I seem to find some sense in them. I said I could not swim. You cannot swim. Can you? He added, turning to the knave. The knave shook his head with a sigh. Do I look like it? He said, to which it was plain that he had not, as he was made of cardboard. Am I allowed to fall asleep again? You can sleep if you wish. You're allowed to sleep here. The knave shook his head with a sigh. Do I look? Oh, I double read that. All right. So far, the king said as he went on, we know it to be true that the jury, of course, I'll give her 1, they give her 2. This must be what he did with the tarts, you know. But it goes on. They all come back from him to you, said Alice. Why, there they are, said the king, pointing to the tarts. Isn't that as clear as can be? And it goes on. Before she had this fit, you didn't have fits, my dear, you think, he said to the queen. No, no, said the queen in a great rage, throwing an inkstand at the lizard as he spoke. Then the words didn't fit, he said, and looked round the court with a smile, but no one spoke. It's a pun, he added in the fierce tone, and all the court laughed. Let the jury now bring in the verdict, the king said. Oh, no, said the queen. Sentence first, then verdict. Such stuff, said Alice out loud. Of course the jury must make... Hold your tongue, screamed the queen. I won't, said Alice. Off with her head, shouted the queen at the top of her voice. No one moved. Who cares for you, said Alice. She had grown to a full size by this time. You are nothing but a pack of cards. But this whole pack rose up in the air and flew down upon her. She gave a little scream and tried to beat them off, and found herself lying in the bank with her head on the lap of her sister, who was brushing away some dead leaves that had fluttered down from the trees onto her face. Wake up, Alice. Wake up, dear Alice, her sister said. My, that was a long sleep you just had. Oh, I had such a strange dream, said Alice. And she told her sister, as well as she could, of all these strange things that you have just read about. And when she came to the end of it, her sister kissed her and said, It was a strange dream, dear, I'm sure. But run, it's time for dinner. It's getting late. So Alice got up, ran off, thinking while she ran, as well as she might, what a wonderful dream it had been. How did go the past year? Do I call you boy or man? I'm in my 30s, so I don't think boy really follows. I know my VTuber is kind of a young face. Oh shit! What the hell? Oh, thank you for the follow, Busy Bee. I appreciate it. Um, I'm not a standard ASMR, like this is a first for me. uh but yeah, welcome in. We just got finished reading we were reading Alice in Wonderland. Uh we just finished that. Old Boy. I guess Old Boy kind of counts. Yeah. Um we do have one more book that we're going to read before we wrap up. Um this is one that this is the one I originally wanted to read. Um it took me a second to find it. We're going to read Go the Fuck to Sleep by Adam Mansbach. Mansbach? Mansbach. I think that's how it's named. Despite not usually doing ASMR, you have a very good voice for it. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Tune into one of my streams when I'm not doing this and listening to me shriek and cry like a little bitch. I appreciate the appropriate response. Is I guess I should have just said thank you and left it at that. But anyways, okay. I think this will be the last book that read. We read. I need 1 second to blow my nose. Hang on. Okay. I think we're all good. So yeah, this will be the last book that we read. And then I don't think I have anyone to raid out to tonight because I don't know a lot of like ASMR streamers that I could just jump into a raid with. Um, so we might just end uh not abruptly, but we won't do a raid out tonight because I don't feel like explaining that I'm not a. Can you guys hear me? Yeah, you can still hear me. Okay. I thought I didn't hit the mute button. Okay. We're gonna read this last book and then we're gonna probably get some sleep ourselves because I'm starting to get a little creepy or a little sleepy. Okay. So our next book, it's a fairly short book, but it's probably most well known for being read by Samuel L. Jackson. I highly recommend if you haven't listened to Samuel L. Jackson's reading of this, you're missing out. You should go read it, or you should go listen to it. But we're gonna read it, and we're gonna try and do our best job with it. So this will be our last, where I send you off to Betty Bye. The cats nestled close to their kittens. The lambs have laid down with the sheep. You are cozy and warm in your bed, my dear. Please go the fuck to sleep. The windows are dark in the town, child. The whales huddled down in the deep. I'll read you one very last book if you swear we'll go the fuck to sleep. The eagles who soar through the sky are at rest, and the creatures who crawl, run, and creep. I know you're not thirsty, that's bullshit, stop lying. Lay the fuck down, my darling, and sleep. The wind whispers soft through the grass hum, and the field mice make not a peep. It's been 38 minutes already. Jesus Christ, what the fuck? Go to sleep. All the kids from daycare are in dreamland. The froggy has made his last leap. Hell no, you can't go to the bathroom. You know where you can go? The fuck to sleep. The owls fly forth from the treetops. Through the air they soar and they sweep. The hot crimson rage fills my heart, love. For real. Shut the fuck up and sleep. The cubs and the lions are snoring, wrapped in a big snuggly heap. How come you can't do all it? Oh, how come you can do all this great shit? We can't lie the fuck down and sleep. The seeds slumber beneath the earth now, and the crops that the farmers will reap. No more questions. This interview's over. I got 2 words for you, kid. Fucking sleep. The tiger reclines in the Siberian jungle. The sparrow has silenced her cheek. Fuck your stuffed bear. I'm not getting you shit. Close your eyes. Cut the crap. Sleep. Flowers doze low in the meadows, and the high on the mountains so steep. Life is a failure. I am a shit-ass parent. Stop fucking with me and please sleep. The giant pangolins of Madagascar are snoozing as I lie here and openly weep. Sure, fine, whatever, I'll bring you some milk. Who the fuck cares? You're not going to sleep. The room is all I can remember. The furniture, crappy and cheap. You win, you escape, you run down the hall. As I nod the fuck off. It's bleary and dazed I awaken to find your eyes shut, so I keep my fingers crossed tight as I tiptoe away, and you're fucking asleep. We're finally watching our movie, and the popcorn in the microwave goes beep. Oh shit, god damn it, you gotta be kidding me. Go the fuck back to sleep. Okay, I think that's where we're gonna call it. Um, I apologize for the 45 minutes of silence while I was muted because I forgot to check the settings. I will try and figure out a way to upload this VOD to YouTube or something so that people can watch it if they aren't here for the stream. We're gonna go into our ending screen right here. Okay. I'll just say a big thank you to everyone who stayed for the extra ASMR portion of today's stream. This isn't gonna be a regular thing, guys, but I did want to thank you all for getting me to 200 followers in some way. So, thank you to everyone, and also thank you for the new follows to those of you that stop in. I am not a regular ASMR streamer. This is very much just a thank you to my community for helping me reach 200 followers. So, if you do come back to my channel, please don't be surprised that I'm not doing ASMR. We're primarily a video game channel. We play Final Fantasy 14. But I'm gonna let you all get some sleep. I wish I had somebody to raid you out to right now, but I don't really. we'll be back tomorrow for more Final Fantasy. We'll be playing probably some more dailies or weekly challenges. Um, but yeah, this was a fun way to end the stream. I hope you all have a great night. I hope you sleep well. I am going to just kind of end the stream now because I don't really have anything I can read you out to. But thank you very much, and I hope you all have a great